For my Newberry Award winner, I chose to read the historical fiction book Moon Over Manifest by Claire Vanderpool. It is also a Kansas Notable Award winner as well. This chapter book would be appropriate for older intermediate students, not only because of the length of duration, but there's some themes that they may have not been familiar with yet or discuss, whether it be the Great Depression, moon shining with the Prohibition movement, and there is a little bit of smoking cigars and tobaccos as well. So an older intermediate to young middle school age student would be appropriate in terms of the content behind this book. We get to see a young girl by the name of Abilene come off a railroad train to live with Pastor Howard, which later will be known as Shady throughout this book. She has a small package that contains one change of clothes and a few trinkets her dad has given to her. She proceeds to Shady's place, where she finds a unique establishment. Not only is it a church, a bar, but is also his place of residence. That very first night, she wants to hide her small sack of belongings. She locates a loose floorboard underneath, and not only did she try to put her items in there, but she found a trinket box that contained letters from the time period of 1917 to 1918, in addition to some small trinkets. The last day of school is the next day. She is told by Shady, or Pastor Howard, that she's supposed to go and learn about some of the children that she will be accustomed to playing with over the summer. She's very reserved because she's used to her dad, Gideon, and herself not living in an area very long. Goes nonetheless. After school's over, she takes that trinket box up to the tree house, and while unraveling it, two young girls, which she befriends throughout the story, find her. She shows them one of the letters, which intrigues them to go to the cemetery. Along the way, she loses her beloved compass, one of the small tokens her father Gideon has given to her. On the way back, she sees it at the diviner's house, Miss Sadie's. She has no idea how it got there because it was hanging up on the porch. She tries to go reach and grab it, but breaks a vase. She hurries and scurries home. And in the rest of the story, we see how she is making reparation for breaking the vase by doing various odds and ends tasks of gathering flowers from the wild, running errands, and going through digging a garden for Miss Sadie. And within that, the second part of the story unfolds, where those letters come alive through Miss Sadie's stories, and the trinkets that she found in the trinket box are also explained. The textbook author did an excellent job of telling the difference between the flashbacks. We can see that there's different fonts in addition to the dates. This particular case, as we can see, of the date of October 6, 1917, would be a flashback, where just the previous page before, we see a different font there, and going back to that particular chapter title, we see the date of May 29, 1936. So once again, this is in the Depression era, so we see how there are a lot of tough times that are encountered both by Abilene, the young girl, and her friends that she acquires there in the small town in Manifest, Kansas, which is based loosely off of the small southeast Kansas town of Frontenac, Kansas. So we have two stories that are going along. The story of the past talks about a young boy by the name of Jinx who befriends a young man by the name of Ned, and how they assist the town of getting away from the minor owner and the head boss. On the other side, we see Abilene learning to trust people, in addition to trying to figure out the story behind the letters and some newspaper clippings that she sees along the way. What we find out at the end is she's able to trust people where she hasn't been able to in the past, and the story leads up that the young boy by the name of Jinx was her dad, Gideon. This would be an excellent book for children for several reasons, because it would allow them to see the Kansas connection through those historical elements of the Great Depression, World War One, the Spanish influenza, just to name a few things in both of those time periods. But it also allows us to see the importance of how past relationships can form us and frame us, but they don't define us, as we see the character of Jinx changing through the story, which we later come to know as Gideon. Plus, we see how Abilene herself changes with her universals, known facts about people as well. An activity that would be appropriate for children to do with this story would be a side-by-side comparison of setting, characters, and current events that correspond, because it does go back and forth on a pretty consistent basis between now and then, now and then. So in that way they can keep it straight of how each story flows connectively, and then finally at the end they can tie it all back in together. So once again, this was the historical fiction book, A Moon Over Manifest, that was loosely based off the small town of Frontenac, Kansas in southeast Kansas, and it is an appropriate read for upper intermediate age level students to lower middle school age students.